By lawyers for actor Justin Baldoni showed unedited footage from the filming of
One thing you should know about me is I will admit and apologize when I fail.
My nose is so big.
I was hoping that we could address this. It's not too late.
Justin, maybe you need to stop talking about my wife's weight.
What is your problem, Ryan?
My money is on Blake Lively being wrong.
Teaching Justin how to pull you in. I love that.
I felt good in the moment, and for her to use this vulnerable moment against me.
You literally know nothing about women.
What we've just uncovered takes this entire case to a new level. For the first time, private text messages and voice recordings previously left out of the lawsuit have surfaced, pulling back the curtain on Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni's complicated relationship. But that's only the start. Newly obtained, behind-the-scenes footage from the film set paints a very different picture than the one laid out in Blake's legal filings, raising serious questions about her version of events. The catch: none of this material will be introduced until the trial is officially underway, meaning the public has only seen a fraction of what's coming. Legal experts suggest that once this evidence enters the courtroom, it could dramatically shift the case in ways no one expected. With tensions rising and credibility on the line, the stakes for Blake couldn't be higher, and this unfolding drama shows no signs of slowing down.
Time progressed in this film. She decided that she wanted to be a producer. She started to make edits. She wanted to be part of the editing team. There were people hired, like human beings actually hired to do the editing job, who had done work as...
What pushes this controversy into even hotter territory is the claim that Blake Lively tried to lean on her Hollywood inner circle, most notably Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds, to sway the outcome. According to sources, her message couldn't have been more direct: give her greater control of the film, or risk losing both public goodwill and the support of two of the industry's most influential figures. It was a high-stakes gamble built on star power and public perception. But here's the twist: what she thought would be a power play ended up collapsing in real time. Instead of tightening her grip, the move drew unwanted attention and raised suspicions about whether influence was being used in ways that crossed professional boundaries. Insiders say the strategy not only weakened her credibility but also gave Justin Baldoni's camp more leverage than they had before. And the deeper you look into how it unraveled, the more it becomes clear that this wasn't just a setback, it may have been a turning point in the entire case.
Making any sense after working for this film for almost 2 years, together collaborating, text messages, voice memos, getting along, joking. We never had an issue before the break, and then after the break, suddenly there's this weird thing going on with all these demands. I met them at their place, and Ryan blows up on me, and then Taylor's looking at me like I'm so...
That moment you just heard was Justin Baldoni pushing back against the storm that Blake Lively had unleashed, and believe me, things only spiral further from here. From the outside, none of this makes sense. For nearly 2 years, Blake and Justin worked side by side on the film, appearing close, collaborative, and in sync. They laughed together on set, exchanged creative ideas, and never hinted at major conflict. Then, after just a short pause in production, everything shifted dramatically. Blake suddenly introduced new demands, Ryan Reynolds allegedly confronted Justin, and Taylor Swift distanced herself from him as though he'd crossed a line that couldn't be forgiven. What makes this twist stranger is Justin's insistence that he remained professional throughout. Even as tensions grew, he says Blake continued spending long hours in the editing suite, determined to play a central role in post-production. The breaking point wasn't a heated argument or a harsh rejection. Instead, Justin told her simply to wait until he had a rough cut ready before making further changes. That small not yet became the trigger that changed the entire dynamic. Almost overnight, Justin found himself locked out of his own project. Sony shifted creative authority to Blake, while Ryan and Taylor promoted the movie as though it had been her vision from the start. For Justin, who had invested 5 years into the project, the humiliation peaked when he showed up at the premiere of a film he'd directed, only to be treated like an outsider. The betrayal cut deeper when Colleen Hoover, the author behind the best-selling novel, shifted her stance. She had handpicked Justin to direct, collaborated on the screenplay, and stood shoulder to shoulder with him during press tours even after the supposed incidents had already taken place. Yet the moment Blake filed her lawsuit, Colleen posted her support for Blake on Instagram, leaving Justin blindsided. It raised troubling questions. Was this a coordinated move from the start, or did Blake seize control when her demands weren't met? And just as the lawsuit intensified, a darker layer emerged. Justin's supporters noticed personal information about him, old addresses, emails, even phone numbers spreading online. It was a stark reminder of how quickly reputations and private lives can be targeted in the digital age. Once that kind of data leaks, scrubbing it is both difficult and costly. It's why services that monitor the dark web, protect identities, and shield against digital exploitation have become so critical in cases like this. Still, what makes this story particularly unsettling is Justin's consistent praise for Blake, even after everything unfolded. In interviews, he called her brilliant, creative, and deeply committed to shaping the film. He openly credited her with guiding sensitive intimacy scenes and bringing a sharp artistic vision to the project. So how do these narratives line up? On one side, Blake portrays herself as the victim of misconduct. On the other, Justin insists on honoring her contributions, despite being sidelined and replaced in his own work. The questions pile up. Did Blake genuinely feel undermined, or was this a calculated move to secure more control? Was Ryan and Taylor's involvement a matter of loyalty to a friend, or part of a larger strategy to sway public opinion? And what about Colleen Hoover's sudden pivot? Was it authentic support, or pressure from the industry's most powerful voices? What started as a book-to-film adaptation has spiraled into one of Hollywood's most tangled scandals in years. Lawsuits, fractured friendships, reputations at risk, and trust shattered. At this point, it's no longer about one movie, it's about power, influence, and how quickly alliances can shift in an industry where perception often matters more than truth.
With us, so I'm hoping to see you back in the double duty role.
I think there are better people for that one.
Justin.
I think Blake Lively's ready to direct.
After Blake locked Justin out of the project and assumed complete creative control, she moved forward as if his contributions never existed. Publicly, she offered no recognition of his role, yet private text messages told a very different story. In those exchanges, she praised his talent, thanked him for his work, and even expressed gratitude for how closely they had collaborated. That contrast between her private words and public silence already raised eyebrows, but just when it seemed the situation couldn't become more volatile, Blake escalated matters with a stunning accusation. She alleged that Justin had acted inappropriately during the filming of their intimate scenes. Her lawsuit laid out the claim in stark terms, yet provided little context, no evidence, and no corroboration, essentially leaving the matter as her word against his. Overnight, the public was thrust into speculation, uncertain about what had really taken place behind the camera. Then came a turning point. Justin's legal team responded by releasing the unedited footage of the very scene Blake had cited in her complaint. And with that, the narrative began to unravel. The raw video didn't match her allegations, it told an entirely different story, one that cast serious doubt on her claims. What was once a straightforward accusation now became a matter of credibility, shifting the balance of public opinion and leaving many to question whether Blake's lawsuit was built on shaky ground.
So nosy.
I know.
And
my nose is so big.
I was hoping that we could address this. It's not too late. Just gotta shut down. We gotta call an insurance month and just deal with that.
Yeah.
Blake wasn't simply performing in those intimate scenes, she was directing them. At times, she even stepped into the role of intimacy coordinator, making crucial choices about how the moments should play out. Yet later, in her lawsuit, she accused Justin of overstepping boundaries, improvising without consent, and kissing her excessively. But here's where the cracks appear. Before production paused, the script contained just 2 kissing scenes, nothing more, no unscripted additions. When filming resumed, Blake returned with a new list of demands and declined to meet with the official intimacy coordinator. That decision alone cast serious doubt on her later allegations, making it seem as though she was revising the past to edge Justin out, and she wasn't acting in isolation. Colleen Hoover, the author who had once called Justin's script perfect, abruptly shifted allegiances once Blake gained control. Not only did Colleen side with her publicly, but she also helped reshape the film in editing, further pushing Justin out of the very project he had nurtured from the ground up. Then came another twist, Taylor Swift's involvement. Justin had championed the young actress who eventually landed the role of Lily, fighting for her audition and securing her spot in the cast. But when it came time to make the final decision, it wasn't Justin who had the authority. It was Blake and Taylor. The actress later admitted that Taylor gave the ultimate approval, and once promotional interviews began, Justin's role in discovering her was completely left out of the story. In the public eye, it was as though his years of investment, vision, and dedication had been erased, replaced by a narrative where others held the credit for everything he had built.
This is all pretty much Blake's styling. She's been my stylist. And then these are her shoes. Blake's shoes. So literally all Blake. Yep. I feel so lucky. She is an angel. She is a guiding light. She's a force. She is everything you'd want as a mentor and as somebody to look up to.
But Blake wasn't finished stirring the pot, not by a long shot. Together with Ryan Reynolds, she had been planting subtle jabs at Justin for months, the kind of quiet trolling that only became obvious once people pieced the timeline together. Looking back, the bigger picture reveals a conflict that ran far deeper than most realized. Behind the scenes, Ryan wasn't just a supportive husband, he was reportedly influencing the film itself. Several insiders suggest he stepped in to adjust dialogue and reshape scenes alongside Blake. One cast member even confirmed that Ryan had written entire sections of the script and pitched major changes, something almost no actor would normally be permitted to do. But with Blake attached, the standard rules didn't seem to apply. From day one. Blake and Ryan were revising lines daily, reshaping the script in ways that gradually built tension with Justin. What makes it more complicated is the way Blake played her hand. She openly praised Justin, calling him one of the best directors she had ever worked with, contrasting his approach with past directors who, according to her, never valued her input. Those compliments disarmed him. Flattered by her respect and eager to foster genuine collaboration, Justin gave her more creative freedom than most directors would. That's how Blake ended up rewriting one of the film's pivotal rooftop scenes, a sequence that cemented her influence on the project. It proved not only her determination to shape the story but also how skillfully she positioned herself to get exactly what she wanted, even if it meant slowly edging Justin out of his own vision.
For his response to her creative changes to the film's pivotal rooftop scene.
Will you please get down from there?
I'm good, thanks.
Blake wasn't satisfied with just adjusting one scene, she wanted to prove her influence ran far deeper. She openly bragged that both Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift loved her rewritten version of the rooftop sequence and were eager to see how Justin would respond. To drive the point home, she invited Justin to her penthouse, where Ryan and Taylor enthusiastically backed her changes, urging him to keep them in the film. Caught off guard and genuinely flattered, Justin later texted Blake to praise her creativity, admitting he liked much of what she had done and even promising to weave some of her ideas into the final cut. In one exchange, Blake playfully compared herself to Daenerys from Game of Thrones, making it clear she saw Ryan and Taylor as her dragons, formidable allies capable of bending the industry in her favor. This wasn't casual name-dropping. It was a calculated display of power, a reminder that she had heavyweight backing in both Hollywood and the music world. But Blake's ambitions didn't stop with a single rewrite. Once she gained momentum, she began pushing for broader changes, gradually reshaping the entire script. At first, Justin allowed it, hoping to keep the peace and preserve their collaboration. Yet what started as small tweaks soon turned into daily revisions, with Blake questioning nearly every scene. For Justin, it became a balancing act, trying to honor her input while still holding onto the creative vision he had spent years developing.
The brilliance of Blake Lively. I don't think people realize how involved she was in this movie. She was extremely involved, and she really made the film better. And especially when it came to intimacy and all of that, she had a very clear vision, and she was telling me what she thought would work and what she.
Even before the cameras started rolling, tensions were already simmering. According to accounts, the friction began when Justin made what Blake interpreted as a personal remark about her weight. In reality, the context was very different. Because one scene required him to lift her, Justin, who has a history of back problems, quietly asked her trainer about her weight to make sure he wouldn't injure himself. It was a practical question, not a personal jab. But that private conversation didn't stay private. Blake became upset and told Ryan, who immediately confronted Justin at their penthouse. Ryan accused him of body shaming, while Blake allegedly threatened to walk away from the movie unless Justin handled things on her terms. She even warned that, if pushed, she could take the story public as a fat-shaming scandal. Backed into a corner, Justin apologized, desperate to protect both his reputation and the fragile production. Even though his intent had never been malicious despite the rocky start, filming went forward. Blake later claimed that Justin mistreated her during the first month of production, yet her behavior didn't seem to match those allegations. She continued contacting him frequently, often asking to see the daily footage. In one message, she wrote, "Hey Justin, not trying to bug you, but that playlist you sent me was good. Just checking in again about possibly seeing the dailies." In other exchanges, she praised the clips and even noted how much Ryan and Taylor enjoyed them. If she truly felt harassed, her eagerness to stay involved right down to requesting playlists and behind-the-scenes material painted a contradictory picture. The situation escalated when Justin drew a line, refusing to give her unlimited access to the daily footage. Blake responded by going straight to Ryan and her lawyers, filing additional complaints and delivering a new list of demands. These weren't small creative tweaks, they were sweeping changes that disrupted production, jeopardized schedules, and placed the jobs of hundreds of crew members at risk. Even Sony, the distributor, reportedly struggled to understand why she was making such destabilizing requests. More and more, it appeared Blake was positioning herself as a co-director, using leverage and legal threats to push Justin to the sidelines. Then came the breaking point. In her lawsuit, Blake accused Justin of misconduct during intimate scenes, alleging he kissed her neck, sniffed her, and whispered that she smelled good. But when Justin's team released the raw, unedited footage, the narrative flipped. The video showed those very moments as carefully rehearsed performances, executed exactly as scripted and directed, not improvised boundary violations. In context, the footage didn't just fail to support her claims, it directly contradicted them, leaving her accusations under serious scrutiny.
I know. And my nose is so big.
I was hoping that we could address this. It's not too late. Just gotta shut down. We gotta call an insurance month and just.
Before the unedited footage surfaced, Blake had no idea that audio from the disputed scene existed. In her lawsuit, she framed the moment as harassment, but the recordings painted an entirely different picture. Both she and Justin were clearly in character. In fact, Blake herself had suggested adding dialogue to make the scene feel more romantic. When played back in slow motion, it looked like what it truly was: two actors performing, laughing between takes, and improvising within the boundaries of their roles. The raw footage captured their tone as light-hearted and professional. At one point, Justin even complimented Blake's marriage to Ryan, joking that Ryan was far more romantic than he was with his own wife, a remark hardly consistent with predatory behavior. Blake didn't seem uncomfortable at the time. On the contrary, she actively pushed for adjustments, even suggesting they film alternate versions with added dialogue. Every move stayed within professional limits, with Justin immediately pulling back once the director called cut. Later, when he caressed her chin for a slow-motion shot, that too was fully scripted and encouraged by Blake herself. Yet, despite this clear context, Blake later reframed the same moments as harassment. The shift raised questions about motive, particularly as she and Ryan increasingly shaped the narrative. Observers also noted parallels between Justin's real-life health struggles and a character called Nice Pulul, written into the film with traits echoing his back problems. Fans wondered whether Ryan's creative input had been influenced by Blake's perspective, subtly framing Justin in a negative light. When the footage and private messages are viewed together, her accusations weaken. What she described as misconduct looks instead like scripted performances and collaborative improvisation. The so-called fat-shaming incident also appears less like cruelty and more like a misinterpreted safety concern about Justin's back during a lifting scene. Yet perception is powerful. Once Blake convinced Ryan and later Taylor Swift to rally behind her, Justin's image shifted in the court of public opinion. Adding to the drama, Brendan, who played Atlas, publicly sided with Blake. His support was surprising, considering Justin had championed him for the role from the start. Why turn against the director who gave him his break? Was it loyalty to Blake, industry pressure, or something more strategic? For Justin, it felt like a deep betrayal, especially since Blake herself had comforted him privately during earlier production stress, only to later weaponize those moments in her legal filings. And that's the core dilemma. Was Blake orchestrating a deliberate power play to edge Justin out and seize creative control, possibly with her eyes on directing the sequel, or was this simply a case of strong personalities clashing until everything spiraled? The truth may live somewhere in between. But what's undeniable is how the story unfolded in the public eye. Blake cast herself as the victim, Ryan amplified her stance, Taylor stood firmly in her corner, and Justin became the villain, no matter what the raw evidence suggested. The leaked footage undercuts her harassment claims. The behind-the-scenes texts show collaboration, not coercion. The fat-shaming controversy seems rooted in a safety check, not cruelty. Yet in Hollywood, once a narrative takes hold, reversing it is nearly impossible. That's the corner Justin now finds himself backed into, fighting to protect his name while his career hangs in the balance. And this fight is far from finished. Lawsuits are ongoing, alliances are hardening, and the question of who controls the sequel looms large. Will Blake push her way into full creative power? Will Justin clear his name in court? Or will the industry quietly decide the outcome behind closed doors? One thing is certain, this isn't just a battle over a film anymore. It's a battle over influence, perception, and survival in an industry where reputations can be destroyed overnight.